I promised you earlier in the week I'd keep reminding you about this, and then I forgot to remind you about it. But EGX, this weekend we are doing a Football Manager Content Creators panel on Saturday, 3 p.m. at EGX, the biggest gaming event in the UK. We're on the Fringe Theatre stage, 3 p.m. on Saturday. It's going to be me, Second Yellow Card, Nerdphonic, FM Dupe. We're going to be talking about all things Football Manager and content creation. If you want to submit some questions for us to answer on that panel, feel free to do that in the comments down below. If you're going to be at the event, it would be awesome to see you to come along and ask some questions in person. And if you can't make it along to EGX this year, worry not. I will be attempting to record the entire panel, and it should appear on this channel probably early next week, which will be awesome. Hello and welcome to part 176 of Backing the Boro. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode, we have our first Champions League game of the new season against Zenit, and then a Premier League game against Manchester City. When I was planning when to do this episode, I was hoping the Premier League game would be us seeing where we're at this season against old enemies Manchester City. Actually, what I think we've already discovered where we're at. We really laboured to a draw against Tottenham with a late equaliser from Mustafa when we had to go to 3 up top just to try and grab an equaliser. And then we were completely toothless away against Arsenal. So I think it's pretty clear that we're still just a top 4 Premier League team, that if we get a good run of results we might be able to nick the title again. But that's not even the priority. Our one and only priority now for the remainder of this save is winning the Champions League. Our group that we've been given, I mean, it's not the hardest, it's not the easiest. It's definitely a group we should be able to find our way out of. Obviously, Real Madrid we're probably going to lose against, but Zenit and FC Copenhagen, you would expect us to be able to beat both of those and make our way out of our Champions League group again, just like we did last season. Certainly an easier group than we had last year, I think, albeit with one big, good team in there. But I guess they're looking at us as Premier League champions thinking, we don't really fancy facing them either. And Piazza scored 4 goals in the game against Chelsea. I mean, that was a nice day. 4-0 against Chelsea. Then I remember Chelsea aren't very good. And Tottenham and Arsenal, away from home, we're still struggling, clearly. But hopefully we'll beat Man City because we're playing them at home. This is the team we're playing against Zenit. I wouldn't say it's the reserves. It is the Champions League. We are still taking it seriously, but we are rotating just a little bit, mainly to have a look at some of the new players who haven't really got much of a look in the Premier League yet, and to give me an idea of who I should be starting against Manchester City in our next game. So we're going with Harry's in goal, a back four of Roberts making his Champions League debut, Day, Taracha and Coupler, with Centurion, Francisco and Ruzic in midfield, and then Esteban in behind Alonso and Piazza. This is by a million miles the strongest bench we've ever had in this save. Oliveira, Ripert, Camonero, Jones, Stratenovic, Wanda and Nuhu. What a bench. Let's get into the game and hopefully start the Champions League campaign a little bit more convincingly than we did last year. Obviously, we started away from home last year and struggled. We lost 2 games in our Champions League group last year. We still did top the group, but I'd quite like to just start with a convincing win. Say, look at that, we've got Piazza as captain. It's ridiculous. The lad's only just turned 19, but he is a proper wonder kid. We've just given him a new contract for £175,000 a week because he wouldn't accept any less. He is not going to be an Nuneaton player for more than a year or two. It's not going to take long before the likes of Real Madrid or Barcelona or Manchester City come along and give us £100 million plus for him, and we're just not in a position to be able to keep him. I'm glad we've got him tied down to a 5-year deal. I imagine, regardless of what happens, I know the save will probably end before then, but I don't see him ever signing a new Nuneaton contract unless we win the Champions League like 3 times in the next 5 years and become a proper European superpower. Alonso's just got his first, I think that's his first goal of the season. It's certainly his first start of the season. We've gone with Piazza and Jones so far this season, despite the fact Alonso made it into the Premier League Team of the Year last year, was our top scorer last year. I don't know. Is he one of our best 2 strikers? How much longer do we persist with Jones, who I know he's our captain, and I know he's still scoring at roughly a goal a game for England after 20 caps, and he did have that brilliant season when he was top scorer in Europe, but he hasn't really done it for us for a year and a bit now, whereas Alonso and Piazza both are. So maybe it wouldn't do Jones too much harm to drop out of the team for a little while and maybe go with this combination up front for a run of half a dozen games or so, see how they get on. It's a lovely little finish from Esteban, who is the other player who, I think we had 3 players in the Premier League team of the year: Esteban, Alonso and Joksimovic. But obviously Joksimovic is dead to us now because he went to play for Bayern Munich because he doesn't love us anymore, which makes me very, very sad. He is playing regularly for them though, which is nice. Often in Football Manager, when I see a player make a big move, they don't go and play, but both him and Vujicic are playing regularly for Bayern Munich and Paris Saint-Germain, which shows that they were both pretty decent players. We've actually put together a good team here at Nuneaton. Right, Roberts, lovely cross towards Piazza, nods it down to Alonso. It's 3-0 on 12 minutes. Roberts crosses as well as Joksimovic. I'm going to say that right now. I haven't really seen him challenge properly defensively yet, but he hit a beauty of a cross in the Community Shield, just like this one, and this is a lovely cross again. So Esteban puts it out to Roberts, who just takes a touch, floats it in perfectly for Piazza, who nods it down for Alonso. And I think we're pretty much home and dry already. 12 minutes on the clock. We should be fairly comfortable. There shouldn't be any way back into this game for Zenit. And this is exactly how we should be starting our Champions League campaign. Both us and Real should be into the next round by the 4th game. Obviously, I will probably play each other before then, so maybe it won't. But they're 3-0 up. Okay, it's like that, is it? We're having a who can score the most goals competition. Well, I don't know about you, Madrid, but we've got the best young striker in the world, and he hasn't scored yet. And Zenit have just gone down to 10 men. So expect a Piazza hat-trick. Here you go, he's going to be taking the free kick by the looks of it. He always looks very tall. I haven't actually looked how tall he is. We didn't even get to see the free kick. We'll have a look at half-time to see how tall Piazza is, because he seems to tower over everybody. If he's as good as he is and 6'8", then the rest of the world should just give up. I didn't realise, actually, until I was looking at Joksimovic just now, that he's 6'4". Did you realise Joksimovic was 6'4"? I had no idea. Piazza is 6'2". I mean, find the weakness there. As an attacking player. Oh, he can't cross. Never mind, eh? No good at marking or tackling. Who cares? There is no weakness, and I love the fact as well that his greatest strength is that he's a perfectionist who constantly strives for improvement. He's going to hit his 5-star potential, I think. He'll be our first 5-star current ability player. Right, let's get into this second half, and just hope he doesn't break his leg, because as we've seen with Jensen and Kerr before him, a broken leg means you're done. You don't come back for it in FM18, apparently. Francisco, out up to Ruzic. Coupler back to Ruzic again. Centurion in a shooting position, I think, but he plays it on to Alonso, who is on a hat-trick. Piazza's in the middle, and it clatters into the crossbar. Is it gone down as a goal or an own goal? It's an own goal in the end. Piazza headed it into the crossbar. It bounced back and hit him again, and then kind of he fell over it whilst falling over a player. A player stuck their leg out, and I guess their left back got the final touch. So it's the left back who's marking him and has followed him across. And I mean, if they hadn't have got the own goal, he scores it himself. So he still hasn't got his goal, which means we're going to grab at least a 5th, yeah, because Piazza has to score, because that's how he rolls. Coupler with the throw to Francisco. Back to Coupler again. Cross comes into Centurion, nods it down towards Piazza, but he doesn't get there. But we just nod it back to our midfielder, who just sat there waiting for the ball. It's like Zenit are playing with no midfield, which I guess is the case. They're doing a 4-3. Are they down to 9 men? They didn't look like they had enough players on the pitch there. No, 4-3-2 would be right, wouldn't it? But they've got no midfield. They need to sacrifice one of their strikers to stop us just scoring goals constantly. It seems mad that they're playing the system that they're playing. Esteban's taken a knock, so Sir Enoch can come on for the final 20 minutes or so. We're going to make some changes in midfield as well, I think. We'll take off Ruzic for Caminero. Just leave it there. But we don't need to fiddle too much. Well, I'm really thinking in terms of trying to keep players fit for Man City. It's frustrating that Esteban might now be injured for the City game. Because if we lose against City as well, that's 3 Premier League games without a win. And starting to look a little bit challenging in the Premier League already. We only lost, I think, was it 3 or 4 Premier League games in the whole of last season? If we lose 2 in our first 6 games, then you'd guess. At least that means we can fully focus on the Champions League. Because Arsenal and City ran us close last year. If we have a bad start, we don't stand a chance. We'll take off Francisco for Wanda. Just swap those 2 over because Centurion's better at deep-lying playmaker. And Wanda's a natural carrilero, which is why we love him so much. 4-0. What was the score in the Real Madrid game? Is that still 4-0? They're still 4-0 up as well. So really, we want a fifth. We want to go top of our group. Let's put some pressure on Real Madrid. I don't know who we play next. It might be them we play next. But if we just swap punching bags for the next game, we're pretty much there after 2 games if we both stuff our respective oppositions again in the next game. Caminero forward to Sir Enoch Nuhu, who passes it out to Coupler. We've got about 15 seconds left for Piazza to get his goal. He's been dangerous throughout the whole game, but he hasn't yet got the goal that we hoped he'd get. Alonso. Roberts with another stunning cross from Roberts, and Piazza heads into their keeper. We've had 33 shots on goal in this game. Only 2 clear-cut chances, but 9 half chances, and we have a player in Roberts down this left-hand side. And I think there's a strong argument that even if we could have got Joksimovic to sign a new contract at 26 million quid, with both Sretenovic and Roberts, younger than him, coming through with potential, selling Joksimovic was the right move all along. I'm a genius. Let's go and see if I can continue my genius against Manchester City. I've talked myself into keeping some of these players in the team for the Man City game. Roberts, I think he might be the one. I think he's better than Sretenovic. Maybe. So he keeps his place at left back. Sretenovic had started all the previous Premier League games. We're also keeping Alonso and Piazza together up front because they played so very well. Nuhu comes in for the injured Esteban, and we also have Wanda and Caminero coming back into the midfield as they were always going to, and Ripert comes back in at centre back with Turacha dropping down to the bench. I don't really know who our best 2 centre backs are, but this is a more established partnership which seems to make sense when we're playing against Manchester City, doesn't it? This is a massive, massive game for us. We're at home against the team that have been the best team in the world for the last 3 or 4 years at this point. We obviously fluked our way past them by the skin of our teeth last year. But remember, they did thump us. Was it 4-0 or 5-0 in the run-in and made it all look very, very tight and much harder than it needed to be. And this is going to be a proper indication of how we've progressed as a team since last season, because if we can be more competitive against Manchester City, then I believe we're heading in the right direction towards a Champions League win. I don't care if we never win the league again, but Manchester City have won the Champions League the last 2 years. For us to win the Champions League, we've got to learn to beat Manchester City, and this is our first opportunity of this season to do exactly that. And this guy's terrifying, this Adamson fella. He needs to hurry up and retire. He's 32 now. He's been scoring goals for fun for City forever, and there's another one for him for some absolutely suicidal defending. Was that Wanda with the pass back? You can't really blame the defence or the goalkeeper there. They have been hung out to dry by probably our most experienced player at this point, the guy who's been here the longest. That was terrible. Just terrible. And that gives us a bit of a mountain to climb. Cliche bingo, boys and girls. But that's going to take some coming back from. I guess the one positive is because we're playing against Arsenal and Man City so early in the season. In fact, it's 2 positives. One, it gets it out of the way now, so we can then, in theory, go on a run of games because they're the only 2 teams who consistently beat us. We're capable of beating everybody else in the league, so we can now go on a run of 18 wins in a row. But no, we can get a decent run of hopefully some decent form and close that gap, which as it stands at the moment, it's only 3 points between us and Arsenal. I know they've got a game in hand. Roberts learning from Wanda there with another terrible pass that Day managed to intercept. But the other positive of playing them early is, in theory, that means we play them early in the second half of the season as well, Alonso with the equaliser. So we could then maybe have 10, 15 games at the end of the season where we don't have to play either of them, which is then another massive potential advantage, especially if they have to play each other in that time. Alonso, that's a lovely finish. I think Piazza and Alonso is our partnership. Charlie Jones, I never thought I would drop Charlie Jones, but we've dropped him for a game against Manchester City here, and he is going to have to do something special to get back into this team at this point, because this is a good partnership. A couple of people did call it with Alonso when we signed him. Was it last summer or the summer before? And I described him at the time as he was just going to offer some competition up front. And there was a couple of people at the time who said, Alonso's the man, Kev. Nothing, forget competition. He's going to be your top scorer. He was top scorer. And Piazza is even better. And I mean, we've got some good options in all areas of the pitch now. Oh, Piazza, that's terrible. That was just terrible. Why are we gifting chances to Manchester City? I don't understand. There's Adamson again that Harry's collects, who is continuing in his excellent run of form. Now Vujicic isn't breathing down his neck anymore. I've just decided Vujicic was toxic. He was poisoning Harry's, putting too much pressure on him. Probably, I don't know, putting custard in his goalkeeper gloves or something. Now he's out of the way. Harry's is looking like the goalkeeper we thought we'd signed when I thought back in January we'd got an absolute bargain at less than £3 million for a full international Premier League reputation, 4-star ability, better than Vujicic. I think that's the keeper we've got now. He's going to make a terrible mistake now, isn't he? Because this is what happens when I'm too positive about a player. Roberts is going to get sent off because I was positive about him before the match, and Harry's is going to give them a goal because I've been positive about him. And then Alonso and Piazza are going to collide and both crack each other's skulls because they've not got the Danny Mills helmet on. And we know from Maestro last year that's a 10-month injury. So that wouldn't surprise me at all. Just ruin our season. Right, Alonso, we've got a break on here, but we've got 3-on-2. If Alonso can beat his man, he does. Finds Piazza, nods it on to Sir Enoch. And Enoch Nuhu, 2 years ago, scores there. He's just lost that cutting edge as he's got older. He turns 29 this season, and he's just not got the killer instinct anymore, I don't think. Because he scores that all day long back when he was at his peak. He obviously just peaked early. But we're going to keep him around. We want that man to play in the Champions League final. But that's why he's not a regular starter anymore, because he doesn't score that. He used to be the goal machine. And now you can't rely on him to finish. I know it was a difficult chance, but it was an Enoch Nuhu chance. We know he scores them. Wanda can finally come off, get Centurion on. And shall we... I think we should probably take Roberts off as well. Get Sretenovic on. Roberts is on a yellow card. He's not played well. I've maybe put a little bit too much pressure on him. And Coupler's also not playing very well, but we don't have a right back on the bench. Taracha can play right back, but I don't really want to bring someone on to play in our defence who can play right back. Centurion's come on and got himself injured straight away. I guess we'd probably take him straight off and bring Francesco on. I was planning on bringing Charlie Jones on for the last 10 minutes, but we can't risk a proper injury to Centurion, and knees are knees. You know what football's like. A 1-1 draw would be an excellent result still. I just wanted Jones to have the opportunity to come on and prove why he needs to be starting. But clearly injuries have decided that's not how it's going to work. And our entire midfield was pushed up alongside the strikers there. I don't really know what they were thinking. And we've gifted City another opportunity with some crazy decision making in midfield. Francesco particularly was up level with the attackers. Nuhu, that's brilliant. Piazza, what was he trying? I think he was trying to be too clever. Does anyone know if that was a shot or a cross? I thought he was just going to lay it into the path of Alonso, but I don't think he even knew whether it was a shot or a cross. The important thing is we've just played Man City, looked fairly even with them and not lost the game. I think that's progress. This is good. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.